Hello there, friends. It's Miss Holmes here again, coming to you from my happy place, my beautiful kindergarten classroom, room C2, right here at Jack London Elementary School, also known as home of the cutest little class in town. Now, before I begin to share another special story with you today, I'd like to remind you, friends, that I still need your help and support. I need you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already done so, go ahead, push that subscribe button below right now. It's completely free. And by subscribing, you will support me and help me so I can continue to record all these amazing stories and share them with lovers of literature everywhere, from littles to bigs alike. So thanks for your help, friends. This story I'm so excited to read is titled Some Pig. And it is kind of a snippet, I would describe it as, of one of my all-time favorite chapter books, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. And I actually happen to be reading this chapter book with my kindergarten class right now. We read a chapter or two every day after lunch recess, and I read this every year. So if you were one of my students, you know this is one of Miss Holmes's favorite chapter books, read to me when I was in third grade by my favorite teacher too. So when my student Ariana came with this picture book version, which I don't have, I was thrilled. I said, oh my goodness. So we read it, of course, as a class. The kids loved it. And I decided I need to load this up on StoryTime with Miss Holmes too, because unfortunately, the chapter book is too long to put on StoryTime with Miss Holmes, but I can give you a little piece of it, a little snippet of Wilbur and Charlotte's very special relationship, and Fern's too. So this is Some Pig, and it's a Charlotte Web picture book written by E.B. White, who, as I show you here, has written this classic chapter book, right? And people for generations have loved this and read this. So this book is illustrated by Maggie. And it doesn't tell the entire story because obviously a picture book won't. They're shorter. But it does give you a little insight into what this amazing book is all about. So remember, before we open up a book and read what's on the inside, we turn it over and see, is there a sneak peek on the back from the author? Well, here I see a picture of one of our main characters, a very cute little guy. There he is. His name is Wilbur. And we're going to read all about Wilbur in just a moment here. But guess what? I found the sneak peek. Sometimes an author puts it in a different place. Sometimes it's in the book jacket here in the front. It could be kind of called a foreword here. So you read it before the book. Same idea. So let me read this to you. Fern loved Wilbur more than anything, and Wilbur loved her too. Some Pig introduces a new generation to Wilbur, the most lovable pig in children's literature. E.B. White's masterful text from the classic Charlotte's Web, combined with artist Megan Keene's finely detailed work, brings to life the enchanting friendship between Fern and Wilbur. This charming picture book edition will capture the imagination and win the hearts of young readers everywhere. And hopefully maybe it'll inspire some of my readers out there to go ahead and read the full chapter book themselves. So this book was brought in by my student, Ariana. So thank you for bringing this to class, Ariana. Thank you for sharing it with us. And thank you for letting me record this on Storytime with Miss Holmes. This is for you, Ariana. Some Pig. A Charlotte's Web picture book by E.B. White, illustrated by Maggie Keene, and read for Ariana by Miss Holmes. Fern loved Wilbur more than anything. She loved to stroke him, to feed him, to put him to bed. Every morning, as soon as she got up, she warmed his milk and tied his bib on and held the bottle for him. Adorable. Every afternoon, when the school bus stopped in front of her house, Fern jumped out and ran to the kitchen to fix another bottle for him. She fed him again at supper time and again just before going to bed. Mrs. Arable gave him a feeding around noontime each day when Fern was away at school. There's Fern coming in from her school bus, and there's Wilbur waiting. Wilbur loved his milk, and he was never happier than when Fern was warming up a bottle for him. He would stand and gaze up at her with adoring eyes. For the first few days of his life, Wilbur was allowed to live in a box near the stove in the kitchen. Then, when Mrs. Arable complained, he was moved to a bigger box in the woodshed. At 2 weeks of age, he was moved outdoors. It was apple blossom time and the days were getting warmer. Mr. Arable fixed a small yard especially for Wilbur under an apple tree and gave him a large wooden box full of straw with a doorway cut in it so he could walk in and out as he pleased. "Won't he be cold at night?" asked Fern. "No," said her father. "You watch and see what he does." Carrying a bottle of milk, Fern sat down under the apple tree inside the yard. Wilbur ran to her, and she held the bottle for him while he sucked. And when he had finished the last drop, he grunted and walked sleepily into the box. Oh, there he goes. Fern peered through the door. Wilbur was poking the straw with his snout. In a short time, he had dug a tunnel in the straw. Fern was enchanted. It relieved her mind to know that her baby would sleep covered up and would stay warm. Every morning after breakfast, Wilbur walked out to the road with Fern and waited with her until the bus came. She would wave goodbye to him, and he would stand and watch the bus until it vanished around a turn. There it goes. While Fern was in school, Wilbur was shut up inside the yard. But as soon as she got home in the afternoon, she would take him out and he would follow her all around the place. If she went into the house, Wilbur went too. If she went upstairs, Wilbur would wait at the bottom step until she came down again. Oh, we saw that picture on the back of the book. Oh, this one's my favorite. If she took her doll for a walk in the doll carriage, Wilbur followed along. And sometimes on these journeys, Wilbur would get tired, and Fern would pick him up and put him in the carriage alongside the doll. Oh, so adorable. He liked this, and if he was very tired, he would close his eyes and go to sleep under the doll's blanket. He looked so cute when his eyes were closed because his lashes were so long. The doll would close her eyes too, and Fern would wheel the carriage very slowly and smoothly so as not to wake her infants. One warm afternoon, Fern and her brother Avery put on bathing suits and went down to the brook for a swim. Wilbur tagged along at Fern's heels. There he is. When she waded into the brook, Wilbur waded in with her. He found the water quite cold. Oh, too cold for his liking. So while the children swam and played and splashed water at each other, Wilbur amused himself in the mud along the edge of the brook, where it was warm and moist and delightfully sticky and oozy. A perfect place for a young pig. Every day was a happy day, and every night was peaceful. Wilbur was what farmers call a spring pig, which simply means that he was born in springtime. When he was 5 weeks old, Mr. Arable said he was now big enough to sell and would have to be sold. Fern broke down and wept, but her father was firm about it. Wilbur's appetite had increased. He was beginning to eat scraps of food in addition to milk. Mr. Arable was not willing to provide for him any longer. He had already sold Wilbur's 10 brothers and sisters. "He's got to go, Fern," he said. "You've had your fun raising a baby pig, but Wilbur's not a baby any longer, and he has got to be sold." "Call up the Zuckermans," suggested Mrs. Arable to Fern. "Your Uncle Homer sometimes raises a pig, and if Wilbur goes there to live, you can walk down the road and visit him as often as you like." "How much money should I ask for him?" "Well," said her father, "he's a runt. So tell your Uncle Homer you've got a pig you'll sell for $6 and see what he says." Soon it was arranged. Fern phoned and got her Aunt Edith, and her Aunt Edith hollered for Uncle Homer. And Uncle Homer came in from the barn and talked to Fern. And when he heard the price was only $6, he said he would buy the pig. The next day, Wilbur was taken from his home under the apple tree and went to live in a manure pile in the cellar of Zuckerman's barn. And that's where it stops. So like I said, it's a snippet of the relationship of Fern and Wilbur, and soon to be Charlotte as well. I hope you loved that story. Thank you, Ariana, for loaning that to me. And if you're left wanting more, which I think most of us will be, please go out and get the chapter book itself, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, and enjoy the whole story. It's a classic. Thanks for joining me here on Storytime with Miss Holmes, friends. I'll be back with more wonderful stories for you. Stay tuned.